Hi, welcome to Mrs. Park's Algebra 1 class. This is Chapter 2, Section 5, Solving Equations Involving Absolute Values. So remember, absolute value means we're talking about distance. So distance, we're talking about positive numbers, always positive. So when you say like 2 miles, you don't ever hear anyone say negative 2 miles. It's 2 miles west, east, north, or south. It's never negative 2 miles. So keep that in mind when we're talking about absolute values. We're talking about distance and we're talking about positive numbers. So why do we learn this? In 2007, a telephone poll was conducted to determine the reading habits of Americans. People in the survey were allowed to select more than one type of book. The survey had a margin of error of 3 percentage points. This means that results could be 3 percentage points higher or lower. So the percent of people who read religious material could be as high as 69% or as low as 63%. Okay. So here you have 66%, but the margin of error is 3%, so that means 3% lower or higher. It could be either way. So that's why we have 69% or 63%. Okay, absolute value expressions. Expressions with absolute values define an upper and lower range in which a value must lie. Expressions involving absolute value can be evaluated using the given value for their variable. Okay, so what does that mean? When you have an equation like this, evaluate the absolute value of m plus 6 minus 14 if m equals 4. So if m is 4, instead of m, you can substitute that with 4. Now you have 4 plus 6, the absolute value of that, minus 14. 4 plus 6 is 10. Absolute value of 10 is 10. 10 minus 14, negative 4. Okay, so here's your turn, number 1. Okay, so all you're doing is evaluating 23 minus absolute value of 3 minus 4x if x is 2. So all you're going to do is 4 times 2. Okay, subtract that from 3. Find the absolute value of that and subtract that number from 23. Okay, so go ahead and do your turn number 1 and come back when you're done. Okay, welcome back. So absolute value equations. So in words, when solving equations that involve absolute values, there are 2 cases to consider. Okay, so there are 2 cases to consider. Case 1, the expression inside the absolute value symbol is positive. And in case 2, the expression inside the absolute value symbol is negative. Okay, so there's 2 cases for absolute value equations. There can be a case where it's positive or it's negative. Okay, so for any real numbers a and b, if absolute value a equals b, then a equals b, or a equals negative b. So for example, absolute value d equals 10, that means d can be 10, or it can also be negative 10, because the absolute value of negative 10 comes out to be 10. So how do we, a real quick reading math lesson, absolute value. So expression is read the absolute value of the quantity f plus 5. Okay, so absolute value of the quantity of f plus 5. Okay, so when you have the absolute value of the quantity f plus 5, and that equals 17, okay, so there's 2 scenarios, remember. Case 1, if this is positive. Okay, case 2, if that equals negative. So we're saying f plus 5 equals 17, and f plus 5 equals negative 17. So we're going to solve these equations for both scenarios. So when you have f plus 5 equals 17, you're going to subtract 5 on each side, and you have f equals 12. If you have f plus 5 equals negative 17, then you do f plus 5 minus 5, and negative 17 minus 5 equals negative 25. Okay, So here you have two answers, f equals 12 and f equals negative 22. So if you want to show that on a number line, here's your positive 12 and here's your negative 22. Okay. Oops. Let's do full view. Okay. So here you have the absolute value of b minus 1 equals negative 3. So that means the distance between b and 1 is negative 3. Since the distance cannot be negative, there's no such thing as an absolute value being a negative number. So the solution set is an empty set. So remember we learned in the previous section, this means the empty set, there's no solution. Okay. Alright, so here's your terms, number 2a and 2b. Okay, already I see one of these will have an empty set and there's no solution because there's no such thing as an absolute value being negative number. But if there is a positive number, you can say y plus 2 is positive 4, or case 2, y plus 2 is a negative 4. So you have to do two scenarios for each equation. Okay, so here is your real world example. Okay, solve an absolute value equation. So here's one about snakes. Well, here's an interesting fact here. In 2001, the number of households in the US that had either a snake, a turtle, snake, lizard, or other reptile as a pet was 1,678,000. Okay, that's a lot of people with reptiles as pets. Gross. Alright, so snake. The temperature of an enclosure for a pet snake should be about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, give or take 5 degrees. Find the maximum and minimum temperatures. You can use a number of 9 to solve. Okay, so 80 degrees, give or take 5%. So the solution set is 75 and 85. Okay, so give 5%, 5 degrees, it'd be 85. Take 5 degrees off, it'd be 75. So 75 and 85 are the solution sets. Okay, here's your turn number 3 about ice cream. Ice cream should be stored at 5 degrees Fahrenheit with an allowance for 5 degrees. So allowance for 5 degrees means give or take. So what is the maximum and minimum temperatures at which the ice cream should be stored? Go ahead, write your answer for number 3 and come back when you're done. Okay, welcome back. So two more your turns to do here. So number 4 and 5 is what you will be doing. I want to do a few together before you do that. So number 6 here, absolute value equals a negative number. No such thing. So this is just simply no solution. Okay. Same goes for number 9. Absolute value equaling a negative number. No such thing. No solution. Okay. So let's try number 7 together. Absolute value of b plus 4 equals 2. That's scenario 1. Or it can also be absolute value of b plus 4 equals negative 2. So you have two scenarios here. So we'll solve each equation. Let's try brighter color. So, oops, I'm sorry, not absolute value. I meant b plus 4 equals 2. Oh, let's just erase that whole thing. And b plus 4 equals negative 2. Okay. So the first scenario, you subtract 4 on each side, and you get b equals negative 2. Negative 2. Here you do the same thing, subtract 4 on each side. But in this case, you have b equals negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. So you have b equals either negative 2 or negative 6. So those are your two solution sets, or two answers. Okay. So go ahead and do numbers 4 and 5. Your turn numbers 4 and 5. And when you're done, make sure you put your homework away and hand it in tomorrow for credit, because that is the end of the video. Thanks for watching.